All right, welcome. My name is Naveen Zutshi. I'm the CIO and SVP of Palo Alto Networks. Uh, Today we are going to continue our series of cloud conversations where we discuss with peers of mine topics ranging from cloud migrations to cloud security to how do we enable business transformation to what is next for CIOs. So today I'm really pleased to welcome Atticus Tysen, Senior Vice President and CIO of Intuit. He has been there for some years now, both from engineering standpoint as well as now heading up IT. So welcome, Atticus.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Why don't we get started? So just before we started, you were talking a little bit about how your peaks are changing now. I used to be in retail before, and we used to have this big peak, and everything used to lead up to that peak, including all the work around private clouds or public clouds led up to having 40% or 60% more capacity around peaks. So tell us a little bit about your business and how their business is transitioning into multiple peaks through the year, and how are you supporting the business through those transitions?
Sure. So we have four main product areas. One that everyone knows for us is consumer tax or TurboTax.
Yeah.
But we also have small business, QuickBooks. And in that business, we not only do accounting, but we do payments processing and we do payroll. We have Mint for consumer finance, and we have ProConnect for professional tax. So we do about 60% of all the tax returns for the US. And the tax season used to be our biggest peak. But as our small business has grown and also become more global, we have peaks that are related to that business as well. Getting your W-2s out, for instance, or your 1099s. So while we used to have just one big peak, we now find we have multiple peaks throughout the year. And by having much of our infrastructure in the cloud, we can flex up and down just as everybody can with the cloud. And we used to have 60, 70% hardware extra capacity sitting in our data centers unused during big parts of the year, and now we don't have that.
Wow, amazing. 60 to 70% of excess capacity not utilized anymore.
Yeah.
So was that main impetus for going to the cloud? Was this flexibility that you received, or were there other business drivers for both for product move into cloud and as well as the IT move into the cloud? So can you speak a little bit to both of them?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have a goal we've set for ourselves to get out of all of our own data centers by 2020. And that's coming nearer and nearer as I'm watching the clock. But I think we're going to make it. And it was certainly for the flexibility of season, but also, and frankly, even more importantly, it was the speed of the ability to push either new capabilities to market or to test new products. So speed. It was developer flexibility and being able to have talent around the world working on products, which is much easier to do with cloud offerings. And frankly, security. We've worked very hard to make sure the product is even more secure in the cloud than it was in our own data center. And so we think for all of those reasons, the cloud has really made a big advantage. And you mentioned for our offerings, our products, as well as our IT, that 2020 goal is for everything, IT products as well. And so we've been rapidly moving our IT infrastructure either to hosted sites or to pure public cloud.
Right. So let's pull the thread a little bit on the IT side, if you may. More around. So how did you decide which applications to migrate first and later? And then how did you drive this progress? You marched to 2020. How did you align everything to that march?
Yeah, from the IT side, the first product, the first app that we took was CRM. When I became CIO about 4.5 years ago, we had an on-prem CRM system. We had 5 different instances of it. And to really start to get a 360 view of our customer, to provide a better experience for our agents and for our end customer, Salesforce was the right product for us to do that. There are certainly other cloud CRMs, but Salesforce was the one that worked for us at the time. And so that was our very first one. And I would say the biggest reason that we picked that first was less technical, but more that it would give us a business outcome that was tangible and clear and right away. And we had a very willing business partner in our care leaders and our sales leaders who wanted us to go there. And we were a fortunate shop in that we didn't have multiple kind of rogue instances of Salesforce that had crept in. We were able to, from the beginning, roll it out as an enterprise rollout and phase out the on-prem things.
Got it. What about IaaS or infrastructure as a service or platform as a service development? Do you do a lot of custom development at Intuit from an IT standpoint? And if so, have you adopted GCP, AWS, Azure? Can you speak a little bit around both? What was your multi-cloud strategy, single cloud? Where are you in that journey?
Yeah, we've had a strategic relationship with Amazon for many years. We were an early enterprise customer of theirs, and we've co-developed a lot of things, especially around security, as I mentioned earlier. And so our strategy right now is all AWS. And we find the speed at which they're operating and the leverage you get by having one strategic partner has worked really well for us. It's not to say there's not advantages from being multi-cloud, and there's certainly concerns about vendor lock-in or if the technology starts to shift in another direction. So we're very mindful of that and watching for that. But right now we're taking an Amazon approach.
Okay, and is that true for custom application development in IT?
That is correct, except for there's a couple of things that I'm hosting right now at Oracle OMCS.
Okay.
Because for Oracle workloads, it seemed to be the best thing to do.
Got it.
But over time, I think I'm going to shift even that to AWS.
So you talked a little bit about security in AWS and how you were purposeful in terms of thinking about security in AWS. So tell me what you thought were the differences between on-prem security versus security in the public cloud, especially infrastructure as a service or platform as a service.
Right.
What were you mindful of in that environment, and speak about how did you go about solving that security issue? Because this is one of the, if you think about it, one of the biggest questions on CIOs or CISO's mind who are listening to this would be, well, we want to go there, but we are sometimes concerned about the security footprint associated with public cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something, security is something we think about all day long and all night long. It's paramount for what we provide and the kind of data that we work with. So there are certainly different considerations, but I don't think that we thought any harder or less hard about on-prem versus cloud. I think one of the biggest issues with going to a public cloud is the freedom where multiple developers around your company can easily spin up instances. They can leave their S3 buckets open. Right. They can misconfigure things. And so one of the most things we've worked on with Amazon is the ability to see across our enterprise what's happening, and hopefully find holes before either the researchers do, the good guys, or before the bad guys find them. And also find ways of working with common policies that can be applied to instances that are in our domain. So just the ability to kind of manage it like a fleet, just like you can on an on-prem. There's tons of tools that have grown up over the years for data centers to do better management across those. Those tools are more nascent in the cloud. And I think you have to write a lot of your own, we've written a lot of our own custom tooling to make sure that we can check for security. And I think over time, as that becomes more a feature of the clouds, whether it's Azure or Amazon or any of the others, we can back off doing it. But for now, we have to write a lot of it ourselves.
Very interesting. Now, this journey to cloud, this 2020 path that you're on, both as a product company as well as an IT organization, from an IT standpoint, this must have meant a lot of change in the way you are developing, the change in the way you're organizing. So last time when we spoke, you talked a lot about co-creating with business, how you have rethought that. You came from a product background, so you were in the best position to actually speak to that in IT. And also in terms of how you build DevOps or DevSecOps, and what is your mantra around not just the hype, but how do you practically implement it?
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. When I joined the IT group, as you mentioned earlier, I've been with Intuit for 16 years now, always in engineering and product roles. And then I joined IT about 5.5 years ago and became the CIO 4.5 years ago. In the 4.5, 5.5 years I've been in IT, we started off very waterfall, annual releases, sometimes a release every 2 years. We are now to the point where even on our global billing system, we're down to monthly releases, fully automated, with capabilities behind feature flags. We've actually worked with our finance team so that the finance team are the ones that flip the feature flag on, which allows them to kind of believe that all the testing's been done. And one of the biggest change management things in IT is that all the engineers want to adopt new ways of engineering, but our partners may not have been ready. Finance, HR, procurement, and it's been a lot of work with those partners to help them understand their role in more agile development. Is either playing the product owner role or being present for Scrum team meetings, and rather than putting a lot of work up front to writing a great spec and then coming back a year later and saying, hey, that isn't what I really wanted, they now have to come to a meeting every week to kind of check out what's going on. And so the change management, I think, has been strongest with our partners. But once they get over that hurdle, I don't think any of them would go back. They feel they have much more involvement in what's happening. And frankly, business needs no longer last for a year. And so the fact that they can change their mind as Scrum teams come up to grab the next set of user stories off the groomed backlog, and if in between when the team was down for a Scrum, those changed, that's great because the business now feels like the most important things to them are getting done. And so that's been part of our journey. And every team, back to your question on kind of the mantra of it, what I've been telling every team is you have to do some form of agile development. I don't really care what your methodology is. You have to figure that out for yourselves. And the billing and general ledger team may have a very different way they want to go about doing agile, automated testing, evidence collection than, say, a marketing automation team might want to do. And I really wouldn't say there's one size that fits all for IT. And I think that's one of the things that's different about an IT shop is we're so varied in the types of technologies we do and the types of partners we work with, whereas product teams are a little more uniform, has been my experience.
Such important concepts you raised there, this notion of multidisciplinary approach to IT, this notion of feature flag turning on and off, making that enabling, not even doing blue-green canary, but a simpler way of turning this on. This notion of shipping code on a consistent basis. There was someone I just recently heard from talked about shipping code, whether you have anything to ship or not, whether you have any changes to make or not. Because
that's interesting.
That repeatability and that consistency of shipping code builds confidence within both the application teams as well as the business teams that things are going to work every time.
Yeah.
And then this notion of what I found very fascinating about your conversation, just as you were talking about, was the billing team, the procurement team. So you, if I understand correctly, have somewhat decentralized IT to these teams rather than this monolithic IT. So can you speak a little bit about that? Because that's a very fascinating way of thinking about IT of the future.
It's a great question. And when I originally became the CIO, I organized what I thought at the time was customer back. And as you mentioned, I'm still learning IT. I come from product, and I'm getting smarter. Maybe eventually I'll know how to do this job. But
We all are learning every day.
But in the beginning, the way I thought about customer back was, let's have a team focused on marketing. Let's have a team focused on finance. Let's have a team focused on HR. Let's have a team focused on the general global workforce to do things like productivity and email and collaboration tools. And to really, within those teams, have architects and product managers and program managers kind of all kitted out to basically go work with those customer segments. And I think that was okay as a first blush. But as you were just saying, what I'm now trying to do is go even deeper into breaking even those things apart and to have a team thinking like they're the billing team. And the product that team delivers for Intuit is the capability to bill.
Yeah.
And today, because of our legacy through acquisitions and being siloed, we have 9 billing systems in the company. We have moved all those billing systems from out of business units into that one team. And that team's job is operate those 9 things great, build the new thing for the future, get everybody on that. But encompassed in all of that is billing. And we think of the metrics for that team, not only uptime for billing systems, but also error rates and number of calls that come in about bills. And we want that team to think about they're just not stewarding a bunch of technology, but they're actually delivering a capability. And if an end user customer has to call in with a question about their bill, that means we didn't do something about our job because they couldn't understand what happened in the bill.
I really love it because singular mission by team, it's a singular set of capabilities that they focus on rather than getting, and then as an organization you are multidisciplinary, but each organism, so quote unquote, is working on a single discipline.
Right.
I really love that.
Right.
And then this notion of thought leadership then permeates within IT, because one of the things that where I feel IT needs to be moving more is from being an order taker organization to this thought leadership organization. And it's hard to do if you're not spending enormous amount of time understanding the business capabilities to begin with.
Right. And there's also a certain amount of kind of humility you have to have to go in with that. And how do you partner with your business partner? So one of the things the billing team works very closely with people in finance who ultimately are the business keepers of prioritization. And the IT team does the technology, but not in an order taker way. It's together, the two are jointly accountable for the business outcomes and the technology outcomes.
Very good. So as you think about CIOs of tomorrow, what advice would you give CIOs of what they should not be doing or spending less time on?
Well, one of the things that they should not be doing is saying no. It plays into the old tapes about IT.
Yes.
And what you have to do is say, yes, I understand what you're trying to do, but how about this instead? Which is a very different conversation than no. And I think IT groups today get a bit of a bad rap. There are very few IT leaders that I've met who are still really acting the old way. Right. And we're all trying to operate at the speed of business and work on how we be better technology enablers. But it's very easy for just that one time that you say no, for everybody to say, aha, you keep saying no. And so I think as IT leaders, whether you're the CIO, you're leading a team, whether you're a frontline engineer, the most important thing to think is we are about advantaging our businesses, enabling our businesses through technology. And we always have to keep in mind what that end business outcome is. And that our role is to bring technology to bear for that and to be the technical experts that can help things happen and to be a little less risk averse and to think about the reality is, yes, we're running financial systems. Those can't be wrong. We're running people's paychecks. Those can't be wrong. So how do we put technology around the systems to make them more resilient so that as we change them more, we can move faster? And so I think that's really what I would say don't do and what to do.
That's so true, both in terms of moving from a company of IT of no to an IT of speed and agility. Yeah. I'll give you a funny anecdote. I was just talking to one of the teams, business teams, and they were saying, you guys are going too fast. I said, I can count on my hands when you used to have that.
Yeah.
Business wants to slow you down. That's actually a good sign for
That's great.
the organization.
Yeah.
And I think something you also touched on, humility, both in terms of humility in understanding the business, but humility in understanding, let's take that on a different tack on cloud side. There is so much innovation happening, so much feature development happening in public cloud. How are you keeping your teams and yourself current with that? And how are you capturing the advancements for your business?
That's a great question. I don't know that we're ever staying as current as we need to, but I think it kind of also comes back to maybe your previous question of another thing not to do in IT is to think you own everything. Yeah. And I think one of the ways that I stay current is I try to really encourage the people in the business, the people in IT to bring ideas. It's not just the IT group's job to do that. And I welcome people to bring new technologies into the company. I prefer we know about it so we can make sure it's done safely and appropriately. But even if not, I'd rather eventually find out and become a place where we can try new things. Because I think no one person can stay current anymore. There's just too much going on. But as a collective organization, if we can create ways that people can bring new technology in, try it in local places, see what works, see what doesn't, that's how we all stay current together.
So true. Like anywhere from serverless technology to microservices technology to all the new features that are coming out in terms of AWS itself. Just take that one example. There was like, what, 190 new features they produced or released last year?
Yes.
This is one of the things that I was thinking in terms of what is different from COTS applications to this journey in the cloud. It's not only that your ability to go fast, but your ability to consume technology advancements at a much faster clip is so much different in the cloud than it was previously.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're no longer buying applications really anymore. What you're doing is you're assembling from pieces and parts from people here and there to create a solution for a current business problem. You meet that business problem, then there's a new business problem, you have to assemble different parts. And so this whole idea of having an IT portfolio of applications that you're managing and that are static is just no longer true. And that's another, I think, role of IT teams of the future is how to shepherd that more than own it and govern it.
All right, one last question around cloud migration and making sure that we do things right. What are some of the lessons you learned in terms of what we should be avoiding, what your peers or what your leaders who are going through this cloud journey now or are just dipping their toe into it should avoid?
I think it's any kind of technology shift or paradigm shift, there's kind of similar lessons. One, what they say in their literature is not always true. So you have to test your way into this stuff. And it may not be true for you, it may have been true for someone else. And so I think the most important thing to do, and because of the way these things are composed, you can have small tests. And it's really important to have small tests with business partners to make sure that the technology is going to deliver the business outcome you think it's going to get. So I think one is don't do big cutovers. Really do small tests and let success grow organically and then migrate to that success. Also, don't think you have to make the right decision for the next 3 years. I think 3-year cycles are no longer true. It's more, you're going to be cycling different pieces of technology throughout your organization all the time. And so how do you come up with a way to have an organization that thrives on that as opposed to fears that or is threatened by that? And then I think the other thing to do is pick places to experiment with this technology where the business is a willing partner. If you get too far ahead of your business, like when you said when they said you're going too fast, that's great, but then you have to back up a little bit and bring them along. Otherwise, you get accused of being just technology for the sake of technology.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, Atticus, today.
You as well. You're welcome.